Hello YouTube, welcome to my next flight that is going to be a little bit different than the other flights that I had recorded and put up on YouTube before, in three ways I guess. For one, I'm recording this video in English for a reason that I will be telling you in quite a bit. Secondly, I'm not intending to cut down the video, so this is going to be a full flight recording without any cuts in between. The reason being is that a user on a German forum, flightx.net, had given me and the other users on the forum quite some good feedback on my earlier videos with really detailed instructions on the procedures in the 737, and I'm going to try and put them into practice as good as I can, knowing that I will probably fail on many aspects. But how can you improve your flying if you're not doing that? And last but not least, this is a special flight because I will undertake it on British Airways Virtual, which is the virtual counterpart to British Airways, which has, in fact, retired the 737 fleet a couple of weeks ago. And because BA Virtual wants to stay as real to the real equivalent, I guess, they also had to put the 737 out of service in the virtual skies. But in order to make the departure of the 737 as enjoyable as possible, BA Virtual has also decided to put in place a special farewell tour for the 737, which basically takes the 737 to all the destinations that the real Boeing 737 had serviced during its time at British Airways. And we're taking one small leg of this tour from Oslo to Copenhagen today. And with that said and out of the way, I wish you a very pleasant flight here today on YouTube. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please like the video. If you would like to see more, please subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. And, let's get started. So let's start with our overhead panel and the wrong direction, our IRSs, to get them aligned. And what we'll do is just quickly enter our position in it, so the IRSs can get aligned as quickly as possible. So as you know, we are in Oslo-Copenhagen today. That is Echo November Golf Mike. We are on gate 48. Let's see if it takes it. It's even there. And let's get our GPS position. All right, and that should be it. So let's do our overhead panel preparations. Flight control guards are closed. The alternate spoilers are closed. Yaw damper gets on. The navigation switches are on normal. So is the FMC switch. The display switches are on source auto, and the control panel switch is on normal. We'll test our cross feed valve. Open it. It's open and back. We leave the fuel pumps on for the moment. In our second column, we'll test the battery charge. That looks good on the DC side, and put it back on standby power. On the AC side, we're on ground power right now, so let's put it there. Standby power guard is closed. We are on ground power right now. Our APU, our generator switches are on ground power right now. APU is off, which is good. Windshield wipers are off, as they should be. Let's put a little bit of light on the circuit breaker panel and our panel in the cockpit. We'll put our emergency lights on and arm them. Can already put the fasten seatbelt signs on. Check that the lights are extinguished. On the third column, or actually it's already the fourth column, we put the window heat on now. Check that the lights go on. We quickly put the probe heats on and off. Do the same with the anti-ice switches. The valves open. and for the engine anti switches, which normally do not open, but we check that they are in motion. We leave the hydraulic pumps as they are right now, so the engine driven pumps are on and the electric pumps are off for both the A and the B system. Our doors, we see what's open, the forward and rear entry on the left side are open, and our cargo doors are open. Our voice recorder test is passed. And the last column, let's see what the temperatures are. That's alright. We have the recirculation fans on, we have the packs off, we have the isolation valve on auto, and we have the APU bleed switch off. And we leave the isolation valve open for the time being. Our flight level today is going to be 350, so let's put it in here right now. 350, and our landing elevation is 17 feet in Copenhagen, so let's put that down to 0. Our lights, we have the position lights on, and that's all we need for the moment. And the rest is off, which it should be. Okay, so let's quickly do our oxygen test. That's alright. And on the FO side, that sounds good. Let's do the fire test. The fault light and the APU detection in uplight come on, which is good. Engine overheat, put that off. Same for cargo. Put that off. And the same for the engines. And all green lights. Illuminate. Alright, and let's do the rest of the MCP panel while the IRS alignment is still ongoing. And I usually do it from the left to the right, so let's do it on the glare shield first. Put the QNH on hectopascal. Can already enter our QNH today in in Oslo, which is 1008 today. Put our navigation switches on VOR and put the range for our ND on 10 nautical miles, and put the data on our ND. Put the flight director on. We can same on our FO pilot side, hectopascal, and the QNH is already synchronized. Put both navigation display switches on VOR and decrease the ND range to 10 nautical miles, and put data on the right hand side as well, and put our second flight director on. Okay, second row. The main panel display units, that's all on normal as it should be. Do our lights test. Everything seems illuminated. That's good. Reset our fuel flow. Put the auto brake on RTO. Can already put our display unit on our hydraulic system for later. And on the right hand side we have the display units, which is both on normal, same as on the left hand side. Alright, and that's it for this side. We'll do the takeoff warning test. Sounds good. And I hope this time I didn't forget too many things. What I'm not going to do is the audio control panel test, because that requires 3 buttons to be pushed at the same time. I have no idea how to do that. So let's continue with our walk around, which normally I think the pilot not flying is doing, but since we're just one pilot, we'll assume I'm gonna be the same. So let's step out of the plane. Would be great if EasyDock would be working, but then let's do it this way. So I'm not the expert on the walk around, but I guess we need to check the nose gear. That looks good. Check the engines and try and not trip over the hoses. That looks good. The wings, whoops. Let's see if they are undamaged. Front side. The lights are working. That's good. And let's check the backside. Flaps seem to be in order. Our main landing gear, looking good. Let's check the elevator. And I like to do the walk around. I mean, not every time I fly, but you actually start and appreciate the size of the plane if you actually do it from the outside. Elevator looks good. As we can hear, the APU is not on yet. Okay, let's check the right wing. Light is on. What about the other one? That's on as well. Flaps are looking good. I hope you don't find this boring. I mean, I'm not going to be doing this every time I record a video, but I thought this time let's do something special. And we'll do a walk around at least once. Front side of the left wing is looking good as well. And our engine. Looks good. Unfortunately, we can't move it to check if it's spinning freely. And that should conclude our walk around. Let's get back into the cockpit. Alright, here we are. So let's do the rest of our cockpit preparation, which would be the programming of the FMC. Let me pull up my flight plan. So I've already created my flight plan in PFPX, so we only need to load it in here. So we go from Gardermoen to Copenhagen. Is Echo Kilo, where is Kilo? Kilo Charlie Hotel, and 02 this time. Our flight number is a special flight number that doesn't exist. It's Speedbird 737 Tango for 737 Tour. We're going to depart out of runway 19 right in Oslo today, and we take the Tor 6 Delta departure route. And we arrive in Copenhagen on the ILS 22 left, and we take the Sierra Victor Delta 3 November arrival route and the cast transition. And we'll check it on the map display just to make sure. Well, once the IRS alignment is done, we'll do the checking on the ND display. But we'll have to wait for that. But in the meantime, we can do our fuel loading and our passenger loading as well. So we will take with us a little more than 7 tons of fuel today, 7,031. And our zero fuel weight today is 61.7 tons, which is almost full. 99.3%. so we'll not be doing any derating today. And by the way, I was recommended to not use the takeoff and climb derating anyway, but only use assumed temperature. So we'll try and do it this time as well. All right. Let's continue with the performance initialization. Zero fuel weight, we take the automatic value that we've just entered. We have reserves of 1.1 tons with us today. It's a short flight, so we don't need that much reserves. Our cost index is 25. Our cruising altitude is 350. And our cruising wind at that altitude, according to Active Sky Next, is (241) at 37 knots. 241, 37 knots. And the temperature of top of climb is minus 45 degrees, which is exactly ISO. Our transition altitude in Oslo is 7,000 feet. Execute. So as I said, we're not going to derate the engine, but we take an assumed temperature of 35 degrees, which gives us a rating of 94.4%, which I hope is going to be okay. I don't have TopCat. If I had TopCat, I could use that to calculate the assumed temperature, but since I don't, I have to eyeball it, and I guess that's going to be alright. We have a trim setting of 4.6 today, not that much. Always wondering if that means it's nose heavy or tail heavy. Need to figure that out at some point. The runway is correct, 19 right. And we go on the second page of our takeoff reference and enter the runway wind, which is in Oslo today 200 degrees and 11 knots. Go back and take our V-speeds. V2 is 150, which we'll put into the MCP right now and complete our MCP setup. All right, let's see, our runway heading in Oslo, 19 right is 193. Oops, wrong button. 193. Take the 150 plus 15, which is 165. Our runway heading, 1903. Our initial altitude is 7,000 feet. We don't have ATC online, unfortunately, today, but you never know. And 1903 on our FO course setting. Put in VNAV and LNAV. And that should be it. Let's check our flight plan on the maps page. Let's see. Take off in a southerly direction. That looks good. Let's increase the range a little bit. Let's go back. It's a short flight, as I said. That's all looking good so far. And that looks a little bit weird. What's going on here? Oh, okay. Now that's right. We need to pull up our final approach fix, because we don't actually need the CAS waypoint. Lamox is the last point on the star, and then the Charlie India 22 left is the initial approach fix. And that's how it should be. see if the rest is okay. Our missed approach is in here as well. Looks good, I would say. Folks will let me know if that isn't the case. Again, I'm not a real pilot, so I will make mistakes, just as a reminder. And then we have an error message on our scratch pad, and that is no descent path after Charlie Hotel 886. So let's double check that. Charlie Hotel 886, where we need to be 7,000 feet or above, which is alright. And then 5,000 feet or above, and then it doesn't exactly add up, but that's okay. I mean, we don't need to fly the 5,338 feet. It's not a restriction, so it should be alright. And then we have another problem, which is unable 230 knots at the first intercept point after departure, after takeoff. And it says 230 knots sharp. The thing is, the charts say it is a maximum of 230 knots, so not above. And we can change that and hopefully get rid of the error message. 230 knots or below. Let's try if that makes our error message go away. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so we should continue with our overhead setup right now, but before we do that, let's get our passengers on board. GSX for the rescue. Request boarding. Unfortunately, we don't have, I mean, in Oslo the gates aren't working. So we'll have to deal with the bus and the stairs, but I think that's okay. Alright, rest of the overhead procedure. Before we put on the APU, which would, I think, be the normal thing to do right now, we check. Yeah, that's alright. We have our fuel pumps not on yet, so we'll put them on. Put the anti-collision light on to let our ground crew know. Well, I think we do that before we actually move, so we can put the APU on without the anti-collision lights, I think. Again, if I'm mistaken, please put it in the comments and let me know if you should actually put on the position light, the anti-collision light when you are about to move the aircraft or when you're starting the APU, because I think I've read both, but let's see. So the next thing I was told to do with the APU, so when the APU is up and running and the APU generator off bus signs get on, we put load onto the APU. But before we do that, we check the APU generator if there is actually load. I think that was the procedure. I think what the guy told me was that it would be good procedure to check the voltage on any of the generators before you actually put load on them. So let's see. Okay, we have 115 volts, and I don't know what the 400 is. Again, please let me know what the 400 stands for, but we have load on the APU, so we can put it on and let the APU run for a couple of minutes before we put the APU bleed on. And we can disconnect the ground power. Let's put the parking brake on, just in case. Not going to remove the chocks yet. Alright, and now, now we can put on the APU bleeds And I'll put on the air condition because it's pretty cold outside, I believe. It's... Where's my temperature? Ah, there we go. 10 degrees centigrade. Well, it's chilly. But let's get our passengers a little warmth into the cabin. Alright. While the passengers are boarding, there's not much else we can do. Can quickly go over our MCP panel one more time. But that looks good. Our ND setup is good. Our V speeds. And again, sorry for my voice, but I seem to have passed my cold, but my voice is still a little bit damaged, so please bear with me. Okay, we put, I think, the climb page on our FO FMC, and that reminds me what we can still do is go through the VNAV pages. Cruising flight altitude 350, that's okay. Our cruising page with the target speed of 0.78 Mach seems alright. And our descent page, what we can already do is put in our transition level in Copenhagen, which is 7,000 feet, I believe. No, it's flight level 60. And there we have it. Alright. Let's put the legs page on our FMC. And we'll wait until the passengers are on board. So this flight is on IVAO, but right now we don't have coverage, neither in Oslo nor in Copenhagen, nor is any center controller online. This is a bit unfortunate, but that is actually the rule in Northern Europe. There's a big event in Munich today, but there's nothing in Northern Europe, unfortunately, but we'll do without it. Now let's put the standby altimeter, because that's something I like to forget, on hectopascal as well. That should actually be the same. And in the meantime, I'll open my Phoenix, which is the client for BA Virtual. Take off at Echo November Golf Mike and fly to Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel. Cruising level is flight level 350, and our alternate is ESTA. Echo Sierra Tango Alpha. Let's put in the flight plan real quick. I don't think you can actually see that, but Phoenix is a little client application from BA Virtual that's basically monitoring the flight, and it's reporting that back to BA Virtual. Because you do of course receive the hours flying on BA Virtual, you then increase in rank, and you get all sorts of kind of bonus points, I guess. when you're, for instance, flying within schedule, etc., etc. And that's what the client software is actually doing. All right, let's get our doors closed. Boarding is completed. Now we should actually, now we should actually be turning off the A system for the hydraulic pumps, off, and should put both pumps for the B system on, the electric pump and the engine driven pump. Reason being, as I learned, is that the nose gear is actually operated by the A system, and when the tow truck is connected to your nose gear, the last thing you want to have is that the nose gear is moving because you have put the hydraulic pumps for the nose gear under pressure. That's the reason. Okay, let's call our pushback truck. GSX to the rescue. We actually need to, do we need to go to the right or to the left? I believe we need to go to the left. No, we need to go to the right. Nose right. Do you want to start engines before pushback? No, we don't. There's our pushback truck. Oh yeah, the wheel chocks. Yeah, I should actually look on my screen here and not on my flight plan. And now we can put on our anti-collision light to let the crew know that we're about to move, although they will move us. Okay, dann machen wir das mal. Gucken nochmal. Das ist zwar nicht unsere Verantwortung. We'll look to the left and to the right. See, that's very easy to fall back into German if you're not concentrating. Alright, and now for our engine start procedure. We'll of course need to put the packs off. And the APU bleed needs to stay on. And that should be it. Let's put it on engine, and we start with engine number 2. So watch N2, we have 25 and then we inject fuel. And we have fuel flow. Now we have fuel flow. Oil pressure is rising. EGT is rising. At 56% our starter should cut out, which it did. And then we'll watch EGT rising to its maximum. Which was the case, so we have a good engine start. And starting engine number 1. '21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Fuel. Fuel flow is coming on. EGT is coming on. Oil pressure is coming on. EGT is rising. At 56 again, N2, our starter should cut out. Which it did. EGT still rising. And maximum and falling back. So engine number 1, good start. Alright, let's put on the generators and let's check, good practice, as we learned, our generator load. Generator 1 and generator 2. That's all good. Let's put our packs on. And the APU bleed off and isolation valve on auto. Can put our probe heat on. Don't need anti-ice. And can put our A system hydraulic pumps on as well. While we're here, can put on the taxi light and turn off the APU. Start switches to continuous. And it's getting dark, so we'll put the logo lights on. And that should be it for the overhead panel for the moment. Now we do our flight control check. Full left, full right, neutral, full up, full down, neutral, rudder, full left, full right, and neutral. Flight check, flight control check completed. Okay. Before taxi checklist, at least we do one checklist, right? Because we forgot all the others. Excellent. Before taxi checklist, generators are on, probe heat's on, anti-ice not needed, isolation valve is auto, engine start switches are continuous, recall is checked, auto brake is RTO, engine start levers are idle detent, flight controls are checked and ground equipment is clear. Before taxi checklist completed. Okay, now let's go to holding point runway 19er right. Left is clear, right is clear, and off we go. Let's arm the auto throttles. And we'll actually let folks know on Unicom that we're taxiing. Alright, and we take taxiway Delta right here. And while we're at it, let's put flaps on 5. could have and should have done that earlier. But better late than never. Just checking that my BA virtual Phoenix is running. And I should improve on my taxi skills. But as I've said, I think multiple times before, it would be really good to have a co-pilot. Because looking at charts, taxiing is really difficult. Or I need one pair more eyes. Okay, then we turn left on Victor. And again, I hope you don't feel that the video is going to be too long, because I'm recording everything and not cutting anything out. But as people have asked for it, I just thought I'm going to do it this time, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, if you don't like it, please let me know in the comments, and then I'll reconsider it for the next videos. And in any case, I mean, it really depends on the flight. I think this flight is special. So it deserves a special treatment, I guess. And the next video might not be an uncut version like this one. Just double checking on the BA virtual side if my flight's actually online. Yeah, looking good. It's that's one of those things, because you only get your flight recorded and awarded if Phoenix is running correctly. And since I hadn't tried it in prepared version 3 before with Phoenix, I rather double check than being sorry afterwards, because I would have, I mean, to record this video one more time and do the flight one more time to get my flight recorded in BA virtual, which is in particular important right now, because the 737 being retired also means that when you are relatively new at BA virtual, the only other plane you can use is an Airbus 319, 320 and 321. Trouble being that right now for prepared version 3 there's no installer for the Airbus, the Aerosoft Airbus I should say. And that's why you're pretty caught in a corner, because the 737 is the only plane I can actually fly on BA virtual right now. And if there wasn't this retirement tour for the 737, I actually would have had to fly in South Africa, because Comair is still using 737s, but I don't have any scenery in South Africa. And my taxiing skills are really bad. Apparently I can't talk in taxi. All right. The Oslo airport from Airsoft is actually very nice. I think, well, I've never been to Oslo, I believe. No, I've never been to Oslo, so I don't know the airport in reality. But the virtual representation looks fairly nice. I think Airsoft has done a good job here. One of the things that's a little bit disturbing is the white 3D grass. I double checked if I had the correct season installed for the Oslo airport, which I do. It's fall, and usually in fall you don't have white grass. But I do believe it belongs to the winter textures for some reason. I don't know. If you know, please let me know. That's what the comments are for. Okay. Try and do our before takeoff checklist right now. Flaps, green lights, stabilizer trim is set. Before takeoff checklist is completed. Again, we don't have ATC online, unfortunately. So we are on our own and have to give ourselves takeoff clearance. And again, because we don't have a co-pilot, we're going to halt here for a minute. Usually I would be doing a rolling takeoff, but to be very honest with you, I rather don't do that right now, because I would want to make sure we're actually okay. So for lining up, we put on the runway turn-off lights, and we assume we don't have takeoff clearance as yet. So we'll put on transponder code Charlie, transponder mode Charlie, and let's line up. It seems to be clear. Okay. And let's assume we now got takeoff clearance, so we put on the landing lights and our strobes, and the rest is all right. Put on our clock, which I usually forget. All right, takeoff. Engine are stable. Takeoff thrust. Airspeed's alive. $80 knots. V1. Rotate. V2. Positive climb. Gear up. Flaps 1. Autopilot on. And flaps up. All right. Auto brakes off. Gear off. Start switches off. Turn off lights and retractables can go off. Since we have no ATC, we'll climb to our cruising flight level of 350. Now we should pass our transition altitude. There we go. Standard barometric pressure. And I swore to myself not to look out too much of the window in order to keep the instruments in check, but this is just looking too nice to pass. Very nice. I really like flying in Northern Europe. I think the countryside, the landscape just looks fantastic. But back to our flight. Passing flight level 100. I'll put off the remaining landing lights. And we can put off the lower light as well. And the seatbelt signs, we can, I think, release our passengers. And off we go on our cruise, which isn't going to take too long. Well, not cruise per se, still on our climb. But the workload is now being reduced dramatically. Final check if everything looks good on our overhead panel. Generators are looking good. Yep. I think we can live with that. So we have been taking off in a, well, southwesterly direction, and right now we're turning directly south, and what I keep forgetting is putting my heading on where we're actually going. And again, I have to say, I mean, the step from prepared version 2.5 to version 3 has been immense, I believe. In terms of, I mean, the out-of-memory errors, I haven't seen one to date, and I had been flying into Heathrow, which for me was kind of a very critical airport. that I couldn't really reach without an out of memory error in FSX. In prepared version 2.5 it was a little bit better, and now on version 3 it's virtually gone. I haven't seen one, and my settings are pretty high. So kudos to Lockheed Martin. That was a real leap. I mean, both in terms of performance as well as memory management. Okay, since our cruise is not going to be long, let's have a look at our descent page right now so that we don't miss our top of descent. And one of those things that I learned from the, I think he is a pilot, but the user at the FlightX.net forum is that you actually shouldn't be changing anything in your descent path once you're in the descent. So everything needs to be done before. We still have 144 nautical miles to go to our top of descent. So I think we're good, but let's take a look. Yeah, we're not going to spend much time on our cruising flight level at flight level 350. It's probably going to be, well, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So pretty stressful for our cabin crew. And it's, well, a little bit more stressful for us as well. But to be honest, I like these short haul flights just because the workload is more intense. I mean, what's the point in sitting in front of your PC for a couple of hours and not having to do anything, with the exception of looking at the landscape? And admittedly, depending on where you fly, it can actually look very nice. So for instance, flying over the Alps, or in the US, flying over the mountains, that can look incredibly nice. Or in Canada, very, very nice. Speaking of which, well, it's not Canada, but in I do have OrbX Southern Alaska, which I thought was really, really nice, but I only enjoyed it for about, I don't know, 5-10 days before I installed Prepared version 3. There is no installer yet, as far as I know, for Southern Alaska, so I'm really looking forward to that. What I have done though in between, because on my last flights I didn't have it installed, is Rex. It gave me a hard time, I have to say, installing it. Either it's my inability to install Rex, but I have Rex Direct and I have Soft Clouds as an add-on, and I have to say that the Rex website is not very clear on the instructions, what you need to do and which download you actually need to take in order to get that particular configuration updated. So I did more or less a trial and error, and luckily in the end I got it to work. But I have to admit, it would be nice if Rex software would actually put a little bit more attention to describing and documenting how the upgrade process needs to take place for each of their different configurations. I think by now they have so many different products and ways you can put them together that they need to do that. Otherwise people will just be confused. I consider myself fairly tech savvy, and I think I've installed many programs before, but even I had a hard time doing it, so I can only imagine how someone who might be less savvy with these things has difficulties. So Rex, if you hear me, please do something about it. Okay, and we did forget. No, actually, we're still good on our heading. That's good. Let me take a look at my notes from the FlightX forum user. Okay, so he says we should definitely watch out for any FMC messages which we're not getting right now. so that's all right. We can do our VREF programming. So in Copenhagen, it's going to be a 30 degrees flaps arrival. So our reference speed is going to be 150 knots. We can put in our ILS frequency, 109.5. On both sides. And our course is 219er. Okay, should be set. Okay, I think now we can risk a view from the outside. Alright, I thought that was fairly nice. One thing I should mention, I did try and use another livery for the 737 because in all honesty, the livery I'm flying with right now is the stock livery from PMDG for British Airways Virtual. There are 2 custom liveries on the BA Virtual website for 2 aircrafts that are much closer, but they are closer to the real 737-400 that British Airways was actually using. However, I did have problems with switching the frequencies in IVAP for IVAO, so I chose the standard livery, and also the I guess older 400 versions, they use a different, they don't use the PFD and the ND, but they use EFIS. And to be very honest with you, I've now flown these configurations, so I didn't want to take my chances and risk that I wouldn't be able to operate the configuration, and that's why I chose the standard PMDG livery. Okay, how far to our top of descent? Still 90 miles to go. Can put our auto brakes on 2 and we can actually check our charts for Copenhagen. So we'll be landing ILS 2 left. And we have a barometric minimum of 210, so at least I don't have to scroll too far. Whoops. That's set. What else can we do? Let's see. Here we go one more time through the restrictions on our descent path. So at Sierra Victor Delta we need to be at flight level 100 or above. Let's double check that with our charts. Oops. That's correct. Then 886 at or above flight level 70, that's correct. Then 5000 or above, that's correct. And then we turn at 881, and then we should be what we will speed intervene the speeds anyway, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to the speeds. The rest should be alright. Yep. Our missed approach altitude is 3000 feet. Okay. The moon is shining and lighting our way. But at least this time we're not going to land in complete darkness, which is nice for a change. So the clouds you're seeing right now are soft clouds from Rex, and although I do like the prepared version 3 standard clouds, I think the Rex soft clouds still have a little edge over the standard clouds, so I decided to leave them in there. And what I do like much more are actually the sky textures. I do think that the prepared default sky textures are way too colorful. Never seen a sky looking like what prepared suggested it would look like. So the moon looks really nice. I mean, that's one of the things, right? Apart from the technical details and when you're interested in aviation as such, I think what's also very compelling when flying in a simulator is the optics. It just looks nice. I'm not a big fan of long haul flights in reality because I'm fairly large. I should say tall because I'm not large. And so me being cramped in economy for 8, 10, 12 hours is not really something I'm eager to experience. So as far as I can, I'm trying to prevent that. But short haul flights are okay. But in general, I'm not a big fan of real air traffic or air traffic aviation. Just because it's, well, you lose a lot of time. There's a lot of idle time in between flights. You have to wait, and it's just, yeah, you can work at an airport, you can work at a plane, but it's a lot of idle time, and I like to be a little bit more effective than spending time on airports and airplanes. But of course, as probably many of you know, not always possible to accomplish. All right. Since it's getting a little bit darker, let's put on some lights here. Still 48 miles to go. Okay. That was one of the things that was hinted to me as well, is that of course your heading bug should not follow your track, but your heading. And because we now have, a fairly medium wind from our right hand side, we do need to use a heading of 150, although our track is 144. So if we would be selecting the heading select button right now, we wouldn't have to correct anything. I guess that's one of the advantages of putting up your videos on YouTube, is that other people see what you do and notice all your mistakes. If you're flying on your own, no one's gonna see it, and you'll keep doing the same mistakes over and over again. So, I mean, I have only recently started putting up these videos on YouTube. Can't even really remember why I actually started doing it. I think I was about to stream for a friend, and I forgot to put the switch on for private streaming, and all of a sudden we had like 2, 3, 4, 10 other people on the stream, and they seemed to like it. And then I put it up on YouTube, just a recording of that stream, and again, people seemed to like it. So I kept doing it, and to be very honest, it's fun. And in addition, it's really nice to get feedback and improve on your flying skills. Let's check, not that that we now have coverage in Copenhagen. No, we don't. Okay, so we're still good. We're about to reach our top of descent. So we can already enter our initial restriction, which would be flight level 100. It's pretty low. But I guess there are not many mountains we need to observe around here. And we can check our QNH in Copenhagen. Which is 1017. The other thing that I learned is that if there's really no weather, or when you're not expecting or anticipating any weather, putting on the weather radar is something you should be avoiding. That's why I didn't do it. What I could have done is the traffic. Missed that one. But yeah, the weather radar should only, I guess, come on when there's really some weather that you are expecting. If not, I think it's better not to fry yourselves in the process. Alright, so approaching our top of descent. As far as I can tell, everything is in order. We do our descent checklist. Pressurization, landing altitude is 0. Recall, it's checked. Auto brake is 2. Landing data, VREF 150, minimums 210, barometric, approach briefing completed, and descent checklist completed. And our descent is commencing. Another thing, and that's going to be important later on for our landing, is actually the flap extension schedule. I didn't realize that in real life, in a Boeing 737, you don't use the flaps 2 and the flaps 20 and 25 setting. So you only use 1, 5, 15 and 30, or 40 if you need. That was something I wasn't aware of either. So we'll try and follow that correct procedure in our landing today. I'm not sure if if we're going to succeed, but we'll at least try. And I think this short flight is also is better suited to not be cut down with music, etc., or with any cuts, to be honest, because it's such a short flight that it's hopefully not too exhausting watching the flight in one piece. I don't really intend to cut it into various pieces and put it up on YouTube, because me as a YouTube user, if I commit to watching a flight that's taking a little bit longer, I take the time, and I can always stop it in between if I think it's too long. So I don't really see a need to cut it down or cut it in pieces. So I hope you appreciate it and understand. If you don't, if you think it needs to be cut into various pieces, that's one of the things I would welcome you put into the comments as well. Okay, there's not much we can and need to do now, except watching our descent, so maybe a couple more words about BA Virtual. As I said, I joined it about, I think, 2 months ago, and I was looking for other virtual airlines before, mainly checked out those that would be more active in Germany, like Air Berlin, I believe TUI Fly, Condor and others, but they didn't really appeal to me that much. And then I don't even know why and how I stumbled over BA Virtual, but upon entering their website immediately I thought, okay, that is a big difference to everything I had seen before. It's very professionally done. It's very detailed. It's very strict. They run a very rigid regime in terms of HR, for instance. One of the examples is that if you haven't been with the airline for more than 3 months, you're not eligible for leave, so you cannot just go on vacation. I couldn't either because I'm not with BA Virtual for more than 3 months, and I actually asked for it if I could, because I couldn't be flying with an Airbus, and they denied it. At the same time, they were very forthcoming and very friendly in suggesting to me that I could take the 737 tour, which I'm now doing. So, I mean, I know it's a virtual employer, but it's a very nice one. And, well, we all have a job and we all have work to do. So one might ask, why do you actually join a virtual employer? Isn't one enough? And I'd say, yeah, why not? But I guess us aviation enthusiasts, we want to get as real as it gets. And if you are a real airline pilot, what do? I mean, you do work for an airline. And why not do the same in the virtual skies and work for a virtual airline? Apparently the commitments are far less. So, and with BA Virtual, I think every virtual airline has their own regulation. In BA Virtual, you need to take at least 1 flight per month. And I don't think that's too much. Everybody who is somewhat related and enthusiastic about flight simming should be undertaking 1 flight per month. And so I think that's fair. They have tons of resources about aviation in general. They have handbooks on the various aircrafts, about procedures. They have their own SOP, if you will, which is very nice, and it's similar to the one that the real BA is using. So I guess my recommendation is, if you are looking to join a virtual airline, check out BA Virtual. It's definitely worth it. They have a restriction on applications, so if their roster is full, they don't take any more applicants. That's one of the other things. And I guess they can do it because I think demand is high. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's 1,200 or 1,250 members on the active roster. And if that's full, it's full. There are no new applicants taken. And again, I think that's fair. You can wait. You are being put on a waiting list, and that's all right. Okay, let's see what our descent is doing. We're a little bit on the high side on our speed, but I think that's still okay. We're still at flight level 200, so that should be all right. Sometimes when you retract your throttles on your joystick, the throttle isn't actually going into idle. That's something you always need to check. I just pressed F1 and the throttle actually went back to now really idle. Yeah, clouds are still a big contributor to a decrease in frame rate. It's getting a little bit stuttering right now, and the NGX is one of the most demanding planes I know. So these two factors, my PC is not actually a low-end PC, it's I think fairly high-end, and still. But again, in version 3 of Prepared, great advancements, even in terms of performance. With these settings, I couldn't have flown in the NGX with this amount of clouds. Would have been impossible. I think I would have been at 15 frames per second or something like that. And maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, maybe 20, but still. And now even if it's, I don't know what the frame rate right now is, but even if it's 20, 22, I believe it's much smoother than it used to be in version 2.5. Now, I don't know if that's real or if that's just a belief, but it feels smoother. Alright, what's our next restriction? Flight level 70, so let's put it down to 70. Maybe time to check out the ground chart in Copenhagen where we actually need to go. Where do we want to park? Okay, so we landed 2 left. Ideally, if we have a short rollout, we can exit at Bravo 5. And I think the terminal we want to go to is Pier Bravo, and we'll take one of the Bravo gates, maybe Bravo 7. We'll see. But we'll try and exit on Bravo 5. So now we're at the southern tip of Norway. Well, what am I saying? Sweden. And not very far from Copenhagen. Oh, one of the things I always recommended is also not just to take the gross weight that I'm given, but the actual gross weight we'll have on landing. So but I believe I need to double check that, how that's being done. So we will have 4.2 tons of fuel on board at landing. Where do I get my gross weight from? Okay, that's something I need to double check. I mean, he did tell me, but I now rather concentrate on our approach rather than fumbling in my notes, to be honest. Okay. Total fuel quantity minus fuel at destination. Okay, but that should be alright, because that's the difference of 100 kilograms. That isn't a lot. So that should be alright, but so I need to look into that next time more carefully. We're passing flight level 100, so we put on our fixed lights and the turn-offs. Can put our start switches on continuous and put our logo light on. The rest is hopefully still alright. Looks good. Let's dial in our next restriction at 5,000 feet, which is then already altitude, and our QNH was 1017. Okay, so if I change that now to 67.8 or something, 65.8, not much would change, I guess. Yeah, 149 knots. Okay, we'll leave it at that. So again, not much looking outside of the window right now, because I really want to follow the instruments and the procedure. It's not going to be much eye candy today on that flight. Well, maybe a little bit. I do like the lights in Prepared. I think I've said that a gazillion times before, but I don't think you can say that too often. Alright, I think I'm going to speed intervene now. $220 knots. And we'll dial in our final approach fix altitude of ILS 22 left, which is 3000. And we can so I don't know if you actually heard that beep, but it's the position report of BA Virtual. that you need to do every 60 minutes. So it knows where you, well, that you're still in the cockpit, because you are supposed to be in the cockpit. Okay, I'm going to speed brake a little bit. And I don't think we have put on our passenger signs. Excellent. Yeah, I think we put out the retractables as well now. Correct our heading bug. Go down to 200. I want to be at 200 at the final approach fix, to be honest with you. Let's see if we can accomplish that. We seem to be on our descent path, so that's alright. What I'm gonna do now is go on heading select to intercept Charlie Hotel 881 right now. And then we can choose a heading that will let us intercept the ILS localizer at approximately, I think, 60 degrees. And we go on 180. Bit more speed brakes. And turn to the right to intercept the localizer. Let's put on approach. Second autopilot on. Flaps 5. And reduce speed to flaps 5 speed. All right. So the next flap speed should be 15 and then gear down. We're now at 10 DME. Okay, let's do flaps 15. And gear down. And flaps 15 speed. Our missed approach altitude is set, 3,000 feet. 8 miles DME. Our lights are on. Yep. Speed brakes. Seven miles DME. Okay, flaps 30 and speed. VREF plus 5, which should be 154. Yep. Okay, landing checklist. Engine start switches are continuous, speed brakes arm, landing gear down, flaps, green light. Landing checklist completed. Five miles DME. I'm so tempted to look at the city because it looks really nice. But someone is going to be angry with me when I'm looking outside the window during final approach. But that's alright. That's alright. Autopilot off. Auto throttle off. Continue.
100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
Oh, no, 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 no. Don't float. Reverse thrust. Yeah, let's forget Bravo 5, right? Manual brakes. And exit. Alright. That wasn't too bad after all. Flaps up. Speed brakes up. Okay, let's do our cleanup first. Without a co-pilot, I really don't want to do that while taxiing. Okay, let's see where we actually are. Okay, so we chose Bravo 4. That's not a big problem, but our taxiway back is a little bit longer than anticipated. Alright, let's put on the taxi lights and the APU. Turn off the start switches. Strobes go off. Logo light can stay on. The rest is okay. All right. Probe heats. Turn off. We have a master caution light. Also, these are the probe heats. It's funny how I fall back to German. I don't do this on purpose. Oops. So once we're on straight taxi line, I'll try and call GSX. And we take Bravo 9. Okay, now we can, I think, safely check what our master caution is. Yeah, it's the probe heats. So we taxi all the way down on Bravo. Hold short of runway 30, which is coming up now. Check for traffic. Put our traffic off. There's nothing, and there shouldn't be anything coming, but you never know. So we don't need to hold short. And then we take taxiway Yankee. Which is right there. First is Zulu and then Yankee. Again, I really like the Copenhagen airport. Could fly here all the time. I think Fly Tampa is doing a really good job here. I really need to improve on my taxi skills. To go on Papa, which is here. Okay. It's irritating. There's Bravo 17. You wouldn't think that there's Bravo 9er right behind it. But I think it is. And I think I can see our rampies. Yep. So taxi lights off. Ah, come on. A little bit further. Alright. Parking brake set. Let's put our generators on. APU bleed. And close the isolation. Open the isolation valve. And can turn off our engines. And the one thing that I need to do first now is end BA Virtual's Phoenix. Very good. All right. And I guess now we can call for deboarding. Put on our chocks. I parked a bit too short. Yeah, I'm not a... My parking skills aren't so good either. Okay, APU off. Position anti-collision lights off. And that should be it over here. Let's put on some light here. And let's open the doors. All right. I'm pretty sure that I have forgotten something. Yep, I've forgotten to check the ground power voltage before I actually put it on ground power. I hope you can forgive me. All right, but I think now we can put the pumps off. And we can put the packs off as well.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
And since we have no APU running, we can put the bleeds off as well. And I think that is it. Let's look at our shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps are not off. Webster off now. Probe heat is off. Hydraulic panel is set. Flaps are up. Parking brake is off. Engine start levers are cut off. And weather radar is off. Shutdown checklist completed. Alright. I hope you enjoyed the flight. It was a little bit different than my other videos on purpose. I hope you liked it. Oh, actually, I think in Copenhagen the gates are working. They indeed are. So I forgot that. I hope my passengers didn't fall out of the airplane onto the pavement, onto the apron. And the gateways, the jetways in Copenhagen are particularly nice because the wheels are not sinking into the ground. So would have been a shame I'd missed that. Anyway, again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, definitely. I hope you bear with me for the complete duration of this flight. Again, as I mentioned several times during the video, if you have any feedback for me regarding flight procedures or anything else, please put it in the comments. It's very, very much appreciated. Again, it's one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos, to get better. Because if you don't get feedback, you can't improve on yourself. All right, with that, again, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you next time. If you did enjoy it, leave a like, a thumbs up. And I appreciate all comments you might have. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day and see you soon. Goodbye.